Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. We are Millennial Mom. If you don't know who is who, I'm Millennial. This is Mom. All right, that's the banner. And hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, I'm Mom or Kay from Millennial Mom, and today talk to you about Match Me Abroad Season 2, Episode 3. It's called Too Hot to Handle. Now, Match Me Abroad is also on TLC. You can stream it on different platforms. I know it's on HBO, Discovery Plus, Sunday nights. Comes on live, streams the next day on Mondays. So hopefully if you are watching season 2, you're caught up now on episode 3. So thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. There's other things that I do on this channel. Married at First Sight, the 90-Day Franchise, Match Me Abroad. We'll be doing Love After Lockup soon. And different things come along the way if they come back to TV, if they've been picked up and not dropped by any networks. That's the show that has been around. Check out the channel, look at the video list and see what you like. There's different shorts on there and maybe something will strike your fancy. All right. Everyone else, if you're not new here, thank you for joining. Appreciate you. And hit the like button, everyone watching it on the premiere or on the replay. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. So Match Me Abroad follows American singles who meet up with matchmakers to find them love outside the United States because they feel they have exhausted all their options here. So on this episode, we have Monica and we have Victoria, Amber, and Harold. All going out on their first dates. Now, Amber has already been out on a date, so she's meeting back up with her matchmaker, Katarina, to discuss how the date actually went. Now, the singles that's on the show, they're either trying to find their match made in heaven in Ireland, Singapore, or Brazil on this season. So let's get started with Miss Monica. Monica is from California. She's in Brazil. She's going out on her first date, but she thought that she was going out with a match named Bruno. And Bruno is someone that she actually saw the video diary of that her matchmaker, Luiza, showed her. But Luiza said, Monica was a little bit too much googly-eyed for Bruno, so she's going to set her up with a brand new date for someone that she can get to know better and someone she don't already have like the eyes for. You know what I'm saying? So her matchmaker, Luiza, said that Monica needs to open up and be more, ask more open-ended question and not just lead with the physical, because that's been holding Monica back all this time for meeting someone quality, that if she's led with physical and hasn't been in very good relationships, that maybe if you get to know someone better, you would know if they were really for you or not. So Monica sets out to meet Bernardo, and she's surprised to see her date has brought 3 friends with him. And the date is at maybe at like an athletic place, park, or community center or something like that. And the date that's planned is called foot volley. So it's a combination of volleyball, and for here in America, we call it soccer, but over in Europe, they call it football. So they're on a volleyball court, but it's a sand volleyball, and you try to kick the ball, which is a volleyball, or do a header with your head over the volleyball net to the other team and back and forth as if you're playing volleyball, but just, with your feet. So it was interesting how Monica and Bernardo actually met, because she was like, hey, to the friends, because she didn't know who was who. And he didn't necessarily say like, hey, yes, I'm Bernardo at first. No, he had a date coming, right? She's like, hey, excuse me, are you Bernardo? Excuse me, are you Bernardo? are you Bernardo? And he's like, yes, I'm Bernardo. I'm like, you could have said hello. You know, she was asking around, you looking right at her, right? But maybe he was nervous. And so Monica in confessional says that she was attracted right away to Bernardo. And not just that, she was like, I didn't know he had some hot friends. And then to go outside to play the foot volley, they took off their shirt, so they were shirtless, and she was dressed appropriately, and she was like, okay. She was like eye candy. One thing we learned about Bernardo from Matchmaker, Luiza, is that Bernardo is a personal trainer, and he's a laid back type of guy, and she feels that his laid back and being more patient is something that Monica needs, because Monica is just like, just, I'm not gonna say in your face, but just like puts herself out there first and then gets the consequences after, when she learns that, maybe the guy she was dating was in it for something else instead of being in it just for her. So the date is going well. She's trying to learn the game. She's being very positive and very energetic. And, she's not like moping. She is very like, oh my gosh, I could be doing better. And they're giving her encouragement and, to not to play the game at all. And I've never, ever seen or heard a game like that. You'd be a little bit awkward too. So after they finish playing the foot volley, they come back in minus the friends. The friends go somewhere else and they have just a little bit of small talk and they get to know each other. And, in confessional, Bernardo was like, she's attractive and I wouldn't mind giving her a kiss. And then when they do their small talk, Monica tells Bernardo about her daughter. She's 21. She's played D1 basketball. Had to put that out there. Like, she just don't play any basketball. She plays D1, top of the top. Okay. She's transferring from a school in California to a school in Arizona. And so she's still going to be close, but, not as close she was in California. And, and then Monica says, well, not to be personal or in your business, but are you good with your finances? She goes, I know it's awkward to ask. I mean, at first, the first few minutes, maybe, not as, you get to know someone, but he answered the question. He says he is, and no, it's not awkward. You have to get to know people or whatever he said. He said something along those lines. He said he's a personal trainer. He does good, but he used to be a teacher where the salary wasn't the best, but yes, he pays his bills on time. And so, Monica says, when he threw the question back, she said she's a financial planner, where her job is in financials and everything she does is for her and her daughter. And, of course it should. She was a single mother. It was her and her daughter. She grew up, they basically grew up together. That's how she put it. And, you have to make it work. You help your daughter through college or whatever else she needs, but she's on a full ride scholarship now, so she should be okay. But the thing is, Monica wants someone who will be able to take care of her, like make her feel comfortable, or just someone who just can take care of themselves, really. Like, she won't be, footing their bills, something like that. So maybe in her past, she was giving money away to men who, wasn't really, doing what they were supposed to be doing in life, like taking care of themselves, I'm guessing. But then when they're talking, Bernardo says that conversation comes up about kids. He said he's in his 40s now. He's ready to settle down and he's looking for the right woman. And that made Monica say to herself, I'm not trying to have no kids right now. She didn't say it out loud just yet, but she does end up telling Bernardo this later on. Because after they leave there, they're like, why don't we just go somewhere, get out of here and go somewhere else. So we see them a little bit later and they change clothes, they're showered. And so they go out for drinks. And Monica is saying in confessional that she's afraid to tell him that she doesn't want any more kids. She's 41, 42, something like that. And she's doesn't have a kids. I don't blame her. Once your kids are grown, you're living life now, you're empty nester. You could do what you want, really. Sometimes you don't want to go backwards. Now, there are some men and women who do have children later in life, even though they have older kids because they started young, but that's not what Monica wants to do. So they're still still doing small talk, learning a little bit more about each other. They both believe in God, a higher power, and they both say in confessionals at different times that there is chemistry between the both of them. So then Monica asked Bernardo, so why is it that you wanted to date an American girl? So Bernardo says that, it's not just an American girl. He just wanted to date to find someone, the love of his life. And, he wasn't opposed to meeting anybody from wherever they were from. And then he said that he didn't even know who she was or see a picture of her or maybe even any video diaries of her until like the day before they met. So she was like, oh my gosh, so you didn't know anything about me. So, kind of like you didn't prejudge me, but he thinks she's beautiful. Again, they both have an attraction to each other. And when she did finally mention to him, and she did say, there's something that you told me earlier about having kids. She said, I really don't want to have any more children. He didn't really say anything out of line. He just kind of looked at her and, we'll have to hear his response, his true response another time, I guess. Or maybe he doesn't care. I'm not sure because he didn't really say too much about that. So who knows? Maybe it'll work out for another date or two till they could get their footing together to see if this is something they really want to do, whether he would be okay with not having children or how far the relationship, if it continues to grow. All right, so let's follow up with Miss Victoria. Put her picture up. So we met Victoria on last week's episode, and I left off with her in confessional, being upset with Matchmaker Katarina because Victoria felt like she was being judged by the list of the men that she felt like she wanted or desired, and the fact that she had her friends look at the list to see, if her list was okay. But see, Katarina was like, you have to ask your friends for permission or approval of the type of man you want. So that kind of upset Katarina. So it's not Katarina, Victoria. So it's the next morning when Victoria meets back up with Katarina, and Victoria walks in, gives Katarina a hug. And, Victoria, to me, I just have to say it, and I just have to say it this way. And if there's kids around, I apologize, but she really, I won't use that word. I'll change the word up. Victoria thinks she's hot stuff from A to Z. And to me, listen, if you have to go to a point, I'm talking about just about Victoria, to meet a matchmaker that you research and you just weren't finding your forever and all this stuff, and then you get upset because there's constructive criticism given, that's on you. So clearly you're not as hot stuff as you think you are. And newsflash, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but ma'am, it's not giving, at least the cover of the book, in my opinion. All right. So in confessional, Victoria said that she had to sleep on the things that Victoria was saying that Katarina was saying, because she felt like she was being judged, and that Katarina really doesn't know her and wants her to be the person she thinks she should be. But once again, you did your research, right? Supposedly on Katarina the matchmaker, but yet you're feeling judged. I mean, again, she's supposed to like guide you and direct you maybe on something different that you maybe haven't done before, which is the reason why you're here. Anyways, so then Katarina says to her, did you bring the list? So Katarina wants to see the list instead of Victoria telling her what's on the list. And so Victoria hands her the list, and then Victoria is naming the things that she's looking for in a man. So Victoria says that she wants him to be tall. She wants him to have a lot of hair. She prefers a lot of facial hair. And what else does she say? Like superficial things. So Katarina says to Victoria, she says, yeah, it does sound like what you're looking for is superficial. You're moving on that level, and half of your list is exactly what you're not getting. You're stereotyping pretty much what you think a man should look like. And Katarina feels that Victoria is immature in her judgment. And then Katarina says to Victoria that she doesn't know what she really wants, and that maybe she should like move a little bit different and a little different lifestyle. Just try to get a different dynamic than what she's used to. Now, Victoria says that the kind of man that if she really could have like everything she wanted besides the tall, the facial hair, the casual lifestyle, is she wants them to have a dark humor like her, kind of a bad boy, someone with tattoos. And she had the nerve to say someone that would do street pharmaceuticals, but not really, but a bad boy who would give the illusion. I'm like, are you kidding? You want someone to give the illusion that that's what they do? And what does that look as a couple would do for you? Because again, like I said, to me, Victoria gives off this type of like she's hot stuff and like she's just the cream of the crop and she's all this and that. And no, ma'am. Let me say it again. No, ma'am. It's definitely not that way. So then when she's done describing the type of man she's looking for and she's just like, ooh la la about it, Matchmaker Katarina said, so the type of guy you're describing is the younger version of your father. I said, mic drop. We can like end the show right here. We don't have to hear about none of the other couples. Mic drop. And then there was something about Victoria's energy that seemed like it just kind of like sunk in and settled. And Victoria said, you know what? She's not used to the cookie cutter lifestyle like a lot of people have lived, and that a lot of people wouldn't understand how she grew up and the person she is today, just based off of the things she went through as a child and a young adult growing up in the household that she grew up in, because apparently her dad was someone who she just named, except for he didn't randomly do pharmaceuticals. That's what was done and was in and out the house and different things like that. But then she goes on to say, on the other hand, that she wants someone to accept her for her and, you know, she just wants to be accepted. And I just think that's most people, men, women, or whatever, right? You want to be accepted. And her trauma, the PTSD, just everything she described and how Katrina described it, however she grew up, her PTSD from growing up, the emotional pain, all that, like I said, it's just her body language seems like sunk in, was definitely there. So, yeah, so maybe Victoria, I agree with Katarina. Victoria does not know what she wants, but at the same time, the way she described a man that's like her father, you know, even Katarina said, whatever was embedded in you as a young age, that you think that's the type of man that you're supposed to have and you deserve better. I agree. Now, Katarina says in confessional that she's going to hook Victoria up with an exciting man and also show her that a bad guy isn't necessarily better with a good guy. Now, later we see Victoria go out on a date with self-proclaimed bad boy Dave. Now, Matchmaker Katarina says Dave has a job in finance, so he has a job. And in his free time, Dave likes to party and do a lot of off-the-wall things. Katarina says her nickname for Dave is Mr. Danger. And since Victoria said she wanted an Irish bad boy, boom, here she goes. She's got a Irish bad boy, and to see if this, like someone like Dave, is somebody she's really after. Now, let me tell you something. Based off first impressions, Dave, on how he acts, how he pulled up to the oyster date, he did not disappoint with the shenanigans, and the shenanigans only get worse after. Dave, to me, he's like in his 30s, because Victoria's 39, so Dave is probably like around the same age, because the matchmakers generally try to put them in the same peer group. Dave comes across as a 16-year-old, still in the mind, class clown. It don't come across as bad boy. It comes across as, again, class clown. He is too old to be doing the things that he's doing. It's not even considered cute unless you're around the same type of friends with the same type of mentality. Now, anyways, when Dave pulled up to the date, he blew his car. He's got like a little car, kind of like a little energy efficient car. And you know how train horns go when they come across the railroad tracks? That's the kind of horn he got put in his car. He's like, yeah, I paid like 400 euro or 4,000, something like that, euro to get this put in my car. Okay. In confessional, Victoria said she would be very embarrassed if she was in that car and he was driving around town blowing that horn, honking that horn. Hello? Did you see how he pulled up? Did you see how he got the car? Did you see and feel his energy? Like I said, Dave did not disappoint with the shenanigans. All right. In confessional, Victoria said that she was attracted to Dave, but he already has a strike against him about how he pulled up because he didn't pull up serious. I mean, you said bad boy, it's giving class clown, like I said. So while they're out going shucking for oysters, Dave said, you know what? I've never had oysters. Like, have you? To Victoria, she goes, yeah, I have. She said they are considered an aphrodisiac. And Dave was like, what is that? Like, give you a buzz? She's like, no, like in the romance setting, like aphrodisiac, like that. He goes, oh, like a jalapeno popper. And I'm like, since he's class clowning it the whole date, okay, I was not impressed by the shenanigans. I'm like, is he thinking jalapeno poppers like the food or jalapeno popper in a, as Victoria said, in a romantical way? Because you never know with Dave, okay? So in confessional again, Dave says he's hooked up with an American woman, but not dating one. He's never dated one. And he said he feels more comfortable around American women because they're more open to his pranks. And I'm like, if anybody is open to your class clown pranks, they don't necessarily have to be American. It's just they're on the same wavelength as you. Immature. So after getting the oysters from the lake, the sea, wherever they got them from, Victoria and Dave go inside to try some oysters that they shucked. Now, again, Dave said he's never tried any oysters. Now, again, in confessional, and I saw this coming. I thought he would say it to her personally, but he said in confessional. He says that he had a good time shucking getting the oysters and things like that. And he feels Victoria's a sweet girl. He said, and she's sexy too, and he wouldn't mind sleeping with her. Okay. Who is that a newsflash to? Dave, sorry, gives hit it or quit it. Very immature. I can see why he goes to a matchmaker. I can see why he hasn't been taken up for any fiance type of thing. Because again, you have to be like really on a certain level to be with a Dave. Anyways, while they're trying the oysters, they said, oh, not so bad, right? It's not that bad. So they have different spices on the table, and he takes out the Tabasco. He's like, oh, they need a little bit more spice. He goes, matter of fact, I'm not going to do the spice on the oysters. He proceeds to put the Tabasco and shake some drops in his eyes. And then he's like, oh, the spice, oh my gosh. So Victoria says, are you okay? I'm like, are you okay? What the hell? What? He intentionally put the spices in his eyes. Of course he's okay. If you're going to go that far to do that, I'm not asking you okay because you did what you wanted to do. Listen, date over. All right? So Victoria in the beginning said he had one strike with the train horn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm out of here. Peace out. All right. Let's move to Harold. So Harold is meeting his first date at an art center. Now, Harold was originally had a date with a, what does she call it? His date, like a pre-date, I forgot what she said last week, to see how he would be, his matchmaker, Dolly, to see how he would be on a regular date. Like it was a mock, that's what it is, a mock date. So now he's on his first date at an art center, and Dolly has set up Harold, and he's trying to pronounce the date's name. I think it's She Lee, something like that. But Dolly said her nickname is Cheesy, so he's going to call her Cheesy, and I'm going to call her Cheesy for the sake of his part of the show. Dolly says in confessional to Matchmaker that she set the date up because both Harold and Cheesy like art They like to draw and both are quirky. I mean, that's cool and all. You set them both up based on their interests, right? But I've always felt there was something a little off with Dolly when it came to Harold. I just don't think that she's the right matchmaker for Harold. I think that she's not used to someone that is like Harold on the spectrum and just maybe a little more introverted and just like, not as social, because she's it's a little more pushy, but I just can't put my finger on what it is with Dolly, especially when it comes to Harold. I don't like it. All right. So Harold and Cheesy have chosen what they want to draw, this art studio. And this art studio also has like cats and kittens, and they free roam and you could feed them. And I think I've seen something like this on like Instagram or something like that. Cheesy is happy. She said she loves cats. She wouldn't mind always having a cat, versus Harold, who says that, he likes cats kinda, but it's not something he wants to always have around. And then Harold goes into a story about how one of his friends had all these marks and infections from a cat after feeding it, and he got bit up or scratched up or something like that. Harold always has a story about what is going on in the background, but that's Harold. That's his personality. That's his nature, right? Cheesy in confessional says that she wants a husband who likes cats because she wants them to always be around. Okay, that's cool. But, if you know that Harold may not be your husband, I guess, but it's part of the show. All right. So after the art studio, Harold and Cheesy go out for drinks, and the date has definitely stalled out. It actually stalled out at the art studio because Harold was asking Cheesy questions, and she would answer but wouldn't give any like questions to Harold. So they'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" "I'm all right," and it'd be quiet. "Do you like painting?" "Yes, I love painting," and that's all right. So there wasn't, mutual interaction there. So once they get to the lounge for a drink, that's their next date, like I mentioned. Harold orders a mocktail, and Cheesy looking at him like, "A mocktail?" She's like, "Why'd you order that?" He goes, "Because I don't drink." He said, "The only time I drink really is on New Year's, and then it's only half a cup." Once again, Harold's an oversharer. I'm like, half a cup of what? Like maybe champagne or something? Harold says he likes alcohol too much, and it's so expensive that he doesn't want to like get in the habit. And Cheesy's kind of looking like, right? So then she says, "Well, I have a stereotype about Americans when it came to drinking." And Harold said, "Well, that's not me. I just like a mocktail, just keep things easy." And she's like looking at him. Again, it's not a mutual interaction. The only thing that she really said with a mutual interaction basically was, "How come you got a mocktail?" If that's all you came up with, right? So then, Harold is now starting to click for him. Like, she's not really into me. It's not back and forth conversation. And then Cheesy says, "You know what? I like a man that's a little bit more direct." Harold said, he perks up. He's like, "I can be direct." She's like, "Oh, can I hold your hand?" And she's like, So they reach out for their hands, and then she goes, "Oh, I'm sweating. I gotta, no, I can't do this. I'm sweating." But in confessional, Cheesy said that Harold's hand was clammy and it was kind of gross. Harold gets nervous. He sweats. I could believe, he's nervous a lot of the time. He's, like I said, he's anxious. And so that would cause clammy hands. And on top of that, you weren't really going back and forth with Harold to even, make him comfortable. So that wasn't helping him out any. Harold knows that the date's not going well. He's not feeling it at all because he's not feeling the energy that Cheesy's not giving. In confessional, Cheesy said that, Harold's a nice guy. And, she thinks, he could pretty much do better with someone else that's not her. And I'm like, girl, we saw that at the art studio when you just like, okay, you like cats, he don't. That was it for you. That clearly was a deal breaker. Now, after the date, Harold says, because he was on season 1, not to compare Cheesy to Michaela, but Cheesy's not a Michaela. And I'm like, well, you can't compare the two. They're from two different places of the earth, of the world. And Harold actually proposed to Michaela because Harold thought he had a connection to Michaela, and Michaela ended up saying no. But Harold and Michaela were both on the spectrum. They both had the same interests. They both liked to draw. They both had the same laugh, conversation, and you would have thought they would have tiptoed through the tulips, but they didn't for whatever reason. And I do think that Harold is still, in that mindset of Michaela. So, all right, let's move to Amber. So Amber is meeting back up with Matchmaker Katarina to talk about her date with Kevin. Amber's upset with Katarina because she was like, girl, how can you set me up with a man who lives at home with his mama? I'm not into a mama's boy. I want someone that's independent. Now, Amber says it's a deal breaker for her to live with someone that isn't independent, right? And so Katarina explains that it's not uncommon for someone, a European man, to live with their family at home to help out, whether they're married or not. And Amber says she's had previous bad experiences in the past, and then goes on to say, but it's normal for Americans to move out at the age of 18. And how common it is here. And so in reality, at 18 in America, yes, you're considered an adult. And, some young adults, for whatever reason, move out at 16, 17, 18 for whatever reason. But the standard age is 18, going off to college, trade school, married, whatever you're doing, right? And people do get married young. But who came up with the stigma that you had to come out, leave at 18, or else it's like, oh my gosh, it's so taboo. You still live at home? Because 18 just means that you are technically legal and you go to real jail and you could buy real cigarettes. You still can't drink and you still can't gamble and you could just vote, right? So I just think that, that 18 in America, that umbrella, I don't think that's the best thing for an 18-year-old who, is doing the right thing, at home. All right. So Katarina assured Amber that she understood her concerns and has asked her if she wants to be set up with another date that lives in a different town, still in Ireland. And of course, Amber said hey, that's what I'm here for. And she's willing and interested to meet the date. So we will see how that goes. All right. Now, next week, we're going to be introduced to a new single by the name of Sarah. And Sarah is traveling to Singapore with her mother to meet matchmaker Dolly. And Dolly says that Singaporean men like more natural women and asks Sarah if she's ready to unglam. And Sarah, with the quickness, said, who? Me? No. Okay. Do you see all the enhancements that Sarah has on her face, lips, in her body? Sarah's like, no. Mm-mm. And I remember when the show first started and before all the singles came, Sarah is hoping to have a Crazy Rich Asians, the movie type of finding love like that movie in Singapore. And that's one of the main reasons that she's there. And I'm like, girl, you can't go based off of a movie. It could happen to you like another movie, but she definitely sounds like, let me put her picture back up, that she's going for the wrong reasons. But that's just me. We'll see how it goes. And then Amber is going on her second date, and she is impressed by her date's living conditions and what he's got going on in the background. I think she called it like a dungeon or something like that with all the knives and the axes that's in the background. And then we have Miss Monica. Okay. Monica and Bernardo decide after their lounge drinks to take things somewhere quiet where no one's there to interrupt, possibly to take things nice and slow. That's something that Amber was looking for from the very beginning from Kevin. But hey, that's just me. All right, everyone. That's the end of the episode and little details of what's coming up next week. So hopefully you can keep going and watch the season with me as it progresses to see how these how these singles dates go. And we still have another couple. I keep saying couple, another single to introduce, a guy named Eric. So I don't know when he's coming to the show. Might be next week. We'll have to see. But until then, everyone, thank you again for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, comment, and share. And until the next time, everyone, live simply, be grateful.